It's just me. Tim wants to see how the wide receiver room stacks up. And before I cut you loose here, Steve, what you were talking about with Brian Hartline and just the abundance of riches that's beyond uh, imaginable at any position in college football. I see this photo that gets thrown around social media, and I've seen it so many times. And somebody took a shot of Olave, Wilson, Marvin Harrison, Egbuka, Fleming, and there might have been somebody else there. Obviously, they were only 1 year removed from Jamison Williams at that point, but all those guys sitting next to each other on the bench and just speculating, shoot, we got 2 first-rounders. We're going to have 2 more first-rounders. And then you throw Egbuka in the mix, and Fleming's the only guy that has a little bit to prove here, but certainly he was the #1 receiver coming out of high school as well. So it's a pretty awesome sight.
Yeah, the pedigree that they've built there is nothing short of amazing, obviously, and I think that you got to be excited. I know his question is about who's proven, who's going to come up, and obviously Egbuka is sitting out this spring due to injury. So is Julian Fleming. So that's a good and a bad thing. A bad thing is it kind of suspends their growth and improvement at least until the summer when they can be full go and get back out there. And we don't know if maybe they had minor surgical procedures or what the drawbacks are on them. But Marvin Harrison is certainly out there working every day and getting better and setting the tone, being the first one in, the last one to leave, and say, you want to be an NFL player. This is how it's done. Um, Beyond those three, which I think those will continue to be your top three, um, you've also got Jaden Ballard, who I think is a tremendously promising player, and now in his third year at Ohio State, going into his third year, and I think he's a guy that you got to keep an eye out for, and a guy that is really going to challenge, I think, for playing time. Xavier Johnson, I think we saw was a game breaker, and he's coming back as a 5th or 6th year guy because of COVID. So don't forget about number 10. I mean, he had a long touchdown against Georgia. I mean, if you do it against Georgia in the biggest game of the year, the biggest game of everybody's life, other than the Michigan game, which we know is the single biggest game of everyone's life, but in the biggest game of your life, the national semifinal game, you can do it against anybody. So don't forget about Xavier Johnson. So I would disagree with your question marks there. I think Fleming and Johnson are very good players and are going to have a great year for the Buckeyes. You got those 4 second-year players who the jury is out on, and we are just now, they've had 2 practices, maybe 3 practices in helmets and jerseys against air, basically. So you don't know. I can't make a value judgment on any of those second-year players yet. Caleb Burton, Caleb Brown. I think Caleb Burton may have gotten injured in the first practice, not sure how serious. Kyon Grays and Kojo Antwi. It was been a non-contact injury for Burton. Those 4 guys, they're on the clock because the guys coming up behind them, Bryson Rogers, Noah Rogers, Carnell Tate, and Brandon Ennis, are, I think 2 or 3 of them are in camp right now. I know Tate is there. One of the Rogers is there. Ennis might be there, and the other Rogers is coming in later, I think. So you need to see. I mean, that's 7 guys in their first or second year. You don't think out of that group of 7 guys, probably 4 of which were national top 100 players, that you're not going to find one good playmaker that's going to make inroads this year. I would disagree with that assertion. I would think that somebody out of that group, and moreover, if there's a failing of Brian Hartline, it's to play the depth. You've got to get those younger guys in the game early and often and build the depth, because you don't want Harrison or Fleming or Egbuka or Johnson to go down with injuries because they had to play 65 plays a game. So to me, that's an area to me where you really want to see them play the depth, and I think that to me is exciting.